Good morning from Terminal 4 at Kennedy Airport in New York City. Today, I'm flying on a 737-900.
Before I take you with me to the skies, I'll show you around the terminal a bit. It's a very quiet morning here at JFK, and the airport is just beginning to come alive well before the sunrise.
Well, I am really early. It's not even 5 o'clock yet in the morning. The stores are not even open yet.
I had options. I could sit in the lovely mall area until the stores open, or I could use the Delta Sky Club. I decided to go to the Sky Club by taking the very long walk down Concourse B. Even the gate areas were very quiet, including my gate, where I'll be boarding my 737-900 to Salt Lake City today. Here she is. I'll bring you aboard with me soon. Most aircraft, including these wide bodies, sat quietly at their gates as I continued to a place to get some breakfast.
I'm about to enter the Sky Club here at Terminal 4. The Sky Club is one level up.
And one level up means even better views of airplanes, as this perspective allows you to see the entire aircraft, and they're very well lit. I should be getting breakfast in my first class seat on the 737-900 today, but it may be light since we're in pandemic times, so I filled up as much as I could in the Sky Club. From there, it was about time to board, so I made my way down well before boarding time. I have reason to be at the head of the boarding line. I'll be sitting in row 1, and I have 2 personal items, and in row 1, there's no underseat storage. But I like the extra legroom and the fact that no one can recline their seat in front of me. Once I got to the airplane, there was plenty of space in the overhead bins on both sides.
Welcome aboard the Delta 737-900 series. I am seated in row 1, seat A, and the window is actually just a little bit scratched, not that bad.
If you watch my videos, you know I generally avoid seat 1A because the jet bridge often leaves marks on the first window, but 1A was all that was available for this flight. The first row of first class uses airbag seatbelts, and the seats are well padded and comfortable. And there's enough legroom in the first row window seat to allow you to get up without disturbing your neighbor. The first row also gives you a nice way to see the curve lines of the 737. You can even make out some of the curves leading to the nose of this airplane. And the first row offers a large TV monitor, although it's in a fixed position as it's mounted to the wall. More important to me are the windows. Yes, I took a risk by sitting in 1A and I got lucky that it wasn't very scratched. I'm also in luck because I'm in a Boeing 737-900 and that means large windows. By the way, if you're not in the first class cabin, check a seat map before you book because this airplane has several windows on the back that are misaligned or even missing. In the armrest, you can find a USB outlet for charging your device, and there's a place for drinks above that. At boarding, water was handed out for the first class seats. The literature holder only holds the safety card as Delta Sky magazine has been discontinued due to the pandemic.
Expecting on-time departure here, a 4-hour, 27-minute flight from takeoff to touchdown. Looks like we might have some bumps on the climb out, so I've asked the flight attendants to remain seated for the first bit of the flight. Once we think the aircraft or the air is smooth enough, we'll let them up and they'll begin their service. Do expect it to smooth out probably 20 to 30 minutes into the flight. After that, we're expecting it to be mostly smooth for you. Right now, we're at Salt Lake City, light winds, clear skies, it's about 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's get a 4-hour, 27-minute flight from takeoff to touchdown. I'd like to thank you for flying Delta Airlines. Welcome aboard.
We are ready to leave the gate, so let the ground crew do their magic. As we push back, all eyes are on the 737-900 safety video as interior cabin light is set to a pleasant mix of blue and white. We're now operating under our own power, and 2 CFM engines are helping us move along. Our goal is to get to runway 31 left, and ground control tells us the taxiways to take to get there. Runway 31 left is JFK's longest runway and provides more than enough length at over 14,000 feet. Once we take off on runway 31 left, we'll climb to the left in a standard departure procedure before we head west. In the cockpit, the compass reading is 313 degrees, the heading of runways 31 left and 31 right. Runway 31 right, which is off to our right, is parallel to this runway and is being used for landing traffic today. Runway 31 left is also known as the Bay Runway as it lies on the northeast shore of Jamaica Bay. Jamaica Bay covers around 25,000 acres. Once airborne, we'll get a better view of the bay and its many islands before we enter the cloud deck. In 2010, this runway was closed for some time to allow it to be completely rebuilt. The runway was completely repaved and was widened to accommodate the Airbus A380, which became a frequent visitor to JFK from various airlines around the world. You can get a sense of the width of the runway just by looking at how far away the runway edge is from the aircraft. Runways are typically 150 feet wide, but as aircraft get wider, so do the runways. But a width of 150 feet is all that's needed for this 737. The 737-900 has a rate of climb of 1,800 feet per minute and can make it all the way up to 41,000 feet, but we won't be climbing that high today. Our climb out is in a sharp, left-hand turn designed for both noise abatement as well as traffic conflict. We'll follow the curve of the Belt Parkway below us on the border of Jamaica Bay while turning towards the southwest to avoid airspace for LaGuardia Airport. Our 737-900 handles the climb well as we enter the airspace of the New York TRACON. The TRACON controller, located in Garden City, New York, assigns us higher altitudes to climb to as we follow the published departure procedure for runway 31 left. As a mid-size aircraft, we fit well into the mix of larger and smaller aircraft at JFK and are appropriately spaced between other aircraft for wake turbulence separation. I love sitting on the left side of the plane flying this climb out so I can catch a glimpse of the runway we just departed from. I took in what I was able to see before we entered the lowest level of clouds. We're headed southwest, but we'll continue to turn to the left, circle around JFK, and then proceed on course after being northwest of JFK. I just wish there were no clouds today. The captain had indicated to all of us that we'd experience some bumps during the first 20 to 30 minutes of the flight. The flight attendants remained seated throughout the entire climb out. The first class flight attendant's goal is to service the 20 passengers in the first class cabin. Today's service will be an enhanced breakfast, which is more than the passengers in Comfort Plus in the main cabin will receive. As we reached an area of clear air, the flight attendants started to prepare the meals, so I went to the lavatory to wash my hands. This lavatory is just for the 21st class passengers. An added amenity is the hand lotion in addition to the soap. The space is standard for this aircraft type and not too big or too small. The water is controlled with one handle, and water will stop flowing after some time. The space itself is very pleasant, it's very well lit, and has lots of mirrors, which is a nice touch. As I returned to my seat, the flight attendant gave me my drink order of orange juice and the pandemic-style meal, smoked salmon. I've got a question for you. Are you subscribed to my channel? Come join the thousands of others who hit that red button below so they don't miss out on one of the most unique and inspiring aviation channels on YouTube. Now that we've progressed, I've got some very nice views from my Boeing 737-900. Here's another Boeing 737-900. That's how we look from the outside. This 737 is being operated by United Airlines and is flying from Newark to San Diego. From my seat in front of the wing with the split scimitar winglet, I have unobstructed views of Nebraska, like this beautiful view of Beatrice, Nebraska, about 40 miles south of Lincoln. That's followed by Wilbur, Nebraska, which is the Czech capital of the USA. Up next is Holdridge, Nebraska, home of the Nebraska Prairie Museum. In the state of Colorado, we flew just north of the large Denver International Airport. This airport opened in 1995 and has 7 runways, none of which intersect, providing for a very efficient operation. The Denver International Airport is east of the city of Denver. The city of Denver, with its population of over 700,000, is very easy to see from up here. It's the last city in the flatlands as it sits up against the eastern side of the Rocky Mountains. We're about to cross the Rocky Mountains as we fly just north of Boulder, Colorado. What a dramatic sight this is. I don't know why no one else is looking out the window. The views were amazing. But if you do want to watch TV, Delta provides a vast array of entertainment options. Throughout the flight attendants kept the blue lighting on the ceiling lights. It's a very nice touch, and even though my window was letting in sunlight, it was still easy to see the lights. Speaking of cool lights, this is what the lavatory looks like before you lock the door. What a great shade of blue that is. We're getting ready to start on down to our destination of Salt Lake City. Due to the presence of mountains just to the east of the airport, we can't fly directly to the airport. We'll have to approach Salt Lake City from either the north or the south, and today our routing gives us a southern approach to the area. We descend over the mountains in what is one of the most scenic approaches in the United States. Since we're approaching from the south, we'll need to turn to the right to head north to get to the airport, but it's not that simple today. Today, the wind is coming from the south, so we actually need to land to the south. So that means that once we turn north towards Salt Lake City, we're going to need to pass by the airport, turn around, and then land. We'll pass by Salt Lake City and the airport to the west because of the presence of the mountains on the eastern side. Once we pass by the airport, we'll turn to the right towards the east, then make our final turn to the right to land to the south. What makes this thrilling is that we get to pass very close to some mountains, and the 737-900's large windows allow me to get the best view possible. Even those who are not seated at the window are afforded more window surface area to peek out behind the occupant of the window seat. This plane is a winner for all. As we fly north while looking at the Great Salt Lake, we have to be high enough for flights departing Salt Lake City to pass below us, and that is exactly what's going on here. This CRJ-200 took off in the same direction that we landed in. Its destination is to the west, so to stay clear of the mountains and arrivals above, the aircraft turned to the right to an altitude below the altitude of arriving flights like the one I'm on now. I'm going to show you how these departures work. Here's footage I took 1 hour later from my connecting flight from Salt Lake City. We're departing to the south on runway 16 right, and our destination is to the west. As soon as we take off, we make a right turn while climbing, but we can only climb to an altitude that's below the flights above that are getting ready to land. We're around the same point now as the CRJ-200 that we saw from the air earlier, so I'm going to go back to my 737 so we can continue on and land. We're talking to the Salt Lake City approach controller, and the airport is off to our right, so in a few moments we'll be turning to the right, making a complete U-turn to land on runway 16 left. There's a lot going on in the airspace around Salt Lake City, and it's not just our 737 that's getting ready to land the same time we are. As we turn the final turn and hand it off to the Salt Lake City Airport Control Tower, we can see another Delta airplane off of our left. This flight is going to be landing on runway 17, which is a runway closer to the city. The runway is not parallel to the runway that we're landing on, but it's 5 degrees offset from this runway. It works out perfectly, as the offset of this runway is laid out so that the straight and arrival path will never intersect with the runway we're landing on. This aircraft will come slightly closer to us as we near the runway, but will always be at a sufficient distance from us to allow for adequate separation. We've landed on runway 16 left, a 12,002-foot-long runway. Our 737-900 has plenty of room to slow down, and we were able to vacate the runway with plenty of additional runway ahead of us. We're going to have a long taxi today to the gate under the control of Salt Lake City Ground Control. The reason for the long taxi is because we need to go around the ongoing construction, but once all of that work is complete and the airport's new terminal is finished, the taxi route to the gate will be much shorter.
I'm on the ground here in Salt Lake City. It is always a lovely approach to this airport. Well, I had a great flight from JFK to Salt Lake City on the Boeing 737-900. I hope you enjoyed the flight also. Well, thanks so much for watching my channel. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing by hitting on that red subscribe button below, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks, everybody.